Exploring data visualization in mixed reality simulations to measure teacher responsiveness. I'm Rhonda Bondi, and I'm presenting for our team who worked on the project. We were funded by the Reach Every Reader grant through the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Some background on mixed reality simulations is we see here on the left, a human is puppeting digital avatars that then teachers on the right can interact with them as if they were in the virtual classroom. So let me show you what a mixed reality simulation looks like so you have an idea.
Ava, a question?
Not a question, just really an appreciation. I like that you gave us a time limit because sometimes when I partner share with Savannah, no offense, Savannah, she can talk for a while. So thank you.
I definitely feel that, Ava. I am Savannah in the world, and it's important to have time limits.
So you see the
Ava, a question?
avatars are puppeted by the live human in the virtual classroom, and that's mixed reality simulation. This became very important during COVID as teacher educators turned to digital solutions to provide teachers with student teaching and rehearsal to prepare to work with students. And rehearsals in teacher preparation have three main goals. They want to be able for teachers to practice spontaneity, to limit the complexity of teaching practice to something that a teacher can work on in small bits. And we want teacher education to be focused on clinical practice and really developing the skills that they'll be using with students in the classroom. There's some benefits. Teachers can develop really ambitious and complex practices through rehearsal and practice in teacher preparation. And teachers often complain that there's too much theory and not enough practice in teacher education. However, there's limitations, and critics are concerned about the decontextualized moves that happen when you're not in the real environment with a real context and real students coming with a history and lives to the learning. So that the technical efficiency might be gained at the extent to responsiveness to student needs as learning unfolds, or rigid conceptualizations of practice and prescriptiveness may separate teachers from their own social and cultural identities and may result in kind of rote teaching in the classroom versus presence and responsiveness. So we've decided to tackle the problem of rigorous academic discussions in the early elementary grades because they're such a key component to literacy, and teachers find discussions particularly challenging because students come to reading tasks with a wide range of skills, and discussion is that critical component preparing students for subsequent reading and writing tasks. So we have two research questions. We wanted to investigate how teachers adjust their peer discussion directions to align with student avatar demonstrated learning needs. So we're looking at that responsiveness. How responsive are teachers to the student avatars with regard to this super important task of academic discussions preparing for a subsequent reading and writing task? We also wanted to look at the teacher's responsiveness to the quality of the student responses and the equity in the participation. And we wanted to look at the design features, for example, coaching versus self-reflection, how time is used, the impact of multiple trials in teaching adjustments. So could we learn about design factors? And this is an exploratory study where we had 7 participants from the teacher education program, and we randomly selected them to the coaching, which was the experimental or the control self-reflection treatment. So we developed the simulation script with the simulation specialist and prepared professional development materials. Then we did the random sample, and then we implemented the simulations with the teachers, cleaned and coded each utterance of every transcript using a priori and grounded theory coding. And then we analyzed the results and created models to understand these interactions that I'd like to share with you. So the first goal was to see if teachers could listen for the quality, listening for academic vocabulary, evidence, right? The quality of the responses as well as the equity. Did both students have an opportunity to participate? Did they have an equitable amount of time to share their ideas, etc.? So we provided teachers with a visualization of quality and equity and strategies for communicating their directions to students so that teachers could literally practice moving different levers with their teacher directions. So then after we coded the simulation, we looked at high quality response, those 3 levers: evidence, academic language, and thinking present in the avatar student's response, and the equitable participation between the pairs, looking at roles, speaker and listener, time, turns, and if the teacher gave the students preparation time to prepare the response. On the top of this grid, you can see teachers in the coaching treatment, the 4 teachers in the coaching treatment, and on the bottom, the 3 teachers in the self-reflection treatment. And then as we build out, starting from the center out, in this graph, we can see each trial. Each teacher had 3 trials giving directions for peer discussions. And if the element was present, we color in the box. So in the first trial, we see elements of quality and elements of equity that were present in each teacher's response. Then we see the second trial, and you can see teachers are increasing, for the most part, elements of quality and elements of equity, right? All of the teachers increase except down here in equity, where they had it in the beginning. And this teacher here, see how it's white? Now, teacher 5 never gave the students preparation time before speaking. Then we see the third trial, and interestingly, we see elements go down. You see a teacher here had an element, and now it's white, right? In the third trial, almost across everyone, performance goes down. We see fewer elements of equity. We see fewer elements of quality in teachers' directions for both groups. Then what we can see here is I put pluses and minuses just to make it a little bit easier to see if an element was added or subtracted from the teacher directions. Then what we see is the interaction between the avatar students and the teacher. So a red circle means that that element was present in the avatar's response. So in an ideal world, we would see the square colored in and a red circle showing that the teacher had the element in their directions, and then the actor, the simulation specialist, responded with having the element in the student response as well. What we don't want to see is these circles where it is blank, because that means the avatar, the human puppeting the avatar students, had the element, yet the teacher didn't give it in their directions. So if the element's already there, it's unlikely the teacher's going to add it because the avatar students were already using that in their peer discussion. So sometimes that's a mistake. When you see a white square and a red circle, it's a mistake. So you can kind of see the mistakes from our human who's puppeting the avatar students. You also see mistakes where there's an X, where the avatar, where the simulation specialist actually made a mistake and did not include it, or included an error when they included it. So they said something inaccurate that the teacher would then need to correct in the next set of directions. So I think this type of visualization starts to complicate and help us understand better teacher direction elements in a context, so that they're not decontextualized and isolated. Another thing we can see from this is that more practice isn't necessarily better. In fact, in the third practice, teachers usually did worse, which draws attention to how many trials should there be in a row for teachers, and how exhausting is practicing intensely in a virtual setting for teachers. So I think that some of the key takeaways from the small exploratory study is that the simulations can promote teacher responsiveness. We saw teachers listening and then adding directions that were missing, for elements that were missing from what they heard in student responses. We were able to personalize the practice in the simulation. I think we could do even more with that, focusing in, helping teachers with the skill that they would need to change their directions to respond to students' directions or peer discussions. I think you could limit the trials and expand the conditions to promote the greatest gains in student needs. I thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the conference.